Good evening, everybody. My name is Lori Oristano James, and I'm the president of the Monticello Central School District Board of Education. We welcome you to this evening's meeting of the Monticello Central School District Board of Education. I want to remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded. In addition, Kathleen Doherty is with us by phone, so she is attending the meeting. And in addition, if you have any questions for our public comment session, you can send them to jmontes, JMONTES at k12mcsd.net. That's our district clerk, and she will be able to send them to us again. That email address is jmontes at k12mcsd.net. And at this time, I would like to ask everybody to please stand for the pledge to the flag. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. At this time, I've got to go back to the top of our agenda. At this time, I would like to just take an opportunity for a moment of silence. We lost somebody who was not only part of the Monticello Central School District family as a former student and a graduate of the class of 1962, but he was also the mayor of the village of Monticello for a number of years. And so I just wanted to give you a little background on John Duguid. John was a member when he was in high school of the junior chess club, the junior science club, the JV basketball team, soccer, baseball team, student government vice president. And one of the things that he was very, very proud of and still continues on to this day, when he became mayor, he wanted to recognize Monticello athletes. And he introduced the Mayor's Cup at that time. And it is a treasured trophy by those who are honored as our graduating seniors who receive that, that honor. So we thank him for remembering his alma mater and making sure that our athletes were recognized in that wonderful fashion. Our condolences go out to his entire family. And at this time, I'd like to just take a moment for a reflection in his honor. Thank you very much. Moving on from there, I'd like to remind everybody to please silence your electronic devices. I'll entertain a motion to move the agenda to the table made by Mr. Groden, seconded by Ms. Greco. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? So ordered. Additions, deletions, and corrections to the agenda. Dr. Evans.
Yes, Ms. Oristano James, we have one deletion for tonight's agenda, and that is to remove item T11.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as amended, made by Mr. Groden, seconded by Ms. Greco. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? So ordered. Approval of the minutes of October 15th. I'll entertain a motion made by Ms. Sharaff to accept those minutes, seconded by Mr. Crumley. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? I need everybody who's visible that I can see visibly to please vote. Otherwise, we don't have enough to move forward. And so all in favor? Any opposed? So ordered. Thank you. Approval of minutes of October 28th. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes made by Mr. Crumley, seconded by Mrs. Sharaff. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? So ordered. Student board member updates. I do not see our student board member on with us this evening.
She is having trouble connecting. She said she's trying to get on still.
Okay, so we will come back and pick her up if she's able to get in. So hopefully we will be able to hear from her. And if not, we will get a double report next time. Moving on from there, the adoption of the consent agenda. So, yes, Mr. Crumley? Would you like to move it? You need to unmute yourself.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as a group, F1 through L2.
Seconded by Ms. Sharoff. Any discussion? All in favor? Again, I need to see everybody's hand. Thank you. Any opposed? So ordered. Moving forward to board roundtable. Do we have anybody who needs to make a report for board roundtable?
Madam President, can I just interrupt for a second?
Sure.
Kayla says that it's telling her that she's waiting for the host to let her in. Do you have any pop-up on your screen?
Sorry, I've got it.
Okay, thank you.
So we will wait for her to come on. Why don't we start with our board roundtable and then we'll go back to Kayla. So Kayla can get herself adjusted and in.
She is.
So Kayla, we're going to do board roundtable and then come back to you. We're sorry that was a problem for you tonight. Ms. Sharoff.
I attempted to attend sessions of the NYSBA convention. However, I was plagued with technical difficulties throughout day by day. So my plan is to go back at my leisure and watch sessions and as they're recorded. So I'll be reporting out if something strikes me in the coming months.
So anybody else? Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Mr. Crumley.
Me and my wife attended my daughter's RJK middle school open house. Once we kind of figured out and navigated teams appropriately, it was very nice. Would like to thank all the teachers in the middle school, high school, and all elementary schools for the job they did, and speaking with the parents and the students, and getting information out there, and it's very helpful for everybody. And it's kind of difficult to be sitting at home and then doing that and everything else while you got other things going on. And thank you very much to all the staff and administrators who make that happen.
Thank you. Anybody else with regard to board roundtable? Okay, I do have a few things. I did get into the NYSBA conference on a number of different sessions. And in addition, I attended the annual business meeting on Saturday morning. So I was able to be there and represent us with regard to, delegation and such. What I really liked about the cyber conference, the way that they've put it together, was that anybody who was registered, they understood that a lot of people, especially board members who have other jobs and other commitments, would not necessarily be able to get there during the day. So we do have access to, and including through December 31st, for any of the sessions that are there. There were some very good ones. I thought the one with Dr. Lavelle Brown, it was meaningful. There's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack by what he offered. I specifically went to that hoping that I could actually do a little hello to him because I know him, and I wasn't able to do that. But again, there were some great sessions. The law conference was exceptional as well. The link to as of today, I have not been able to find the link to that. If you want to go back to it, I was able to get the link because there was a section that I had missed. And considering our attorney was the one who was present, I want to make sure I saw it. And I was able to find that link. So I did put a message out because there was another section that I had missed. So I'm trying to find out when we can get that link. But understanding the format it was in, our parent organization did an excellent job in providing us with a lot of opportunities to be able to sign in and see. And I did thank you very much, Mrs. Montez. I did receive my little package from them as a registrant. So, I thank you very much for being able and getting that. Mr. Groden, I don't believe that, were you at the annual business meeting on Saturday morning? Did you want to report out on that?
again, I want to reiterate what you said. The law conference was, I like that the most. I did have similar issues with Stacy, with Trustee Sheriff, the connectivity, and also some other board members in other districts told me and messaged me, can you believe this? It was a little bit frustrating on that part, but otherwise, let's just go back to what this all is, really not the new reality. They did a great job, all things considered. And then, yes, Ms. Montez, thank you. I got my package today in the mail as well. And I would have had a couple more pens if I went.
So we will continue to report out. I believe those links may be shareable of the recordings, but I just need to double check. Yes, they are, Dr. Evans, correct? So if you take a look at the program and there's something you're interested in, Todd was registered, Stacy, so Mr. Groden, Ms. Sharoff, myself, and Dr. Evans were all registered to go. So we're happy to share links if there's something you're interested in. And I have watched some of those and I've had no difficulties. I did have problems signing in the first time. I called their IT department, they got me through it and it was done. So when Ms. Sheriff reached out to me, I was like, contact IT. And they were very receptive and I was able to fix what the issue was. So they did ask for feedback with regard to it because they wanted to potentially do some PD in the future. So please make sure that you do respond to that survey that they did send. I also last night attended the Public Health Community Forum that was done. Dr. Evans and I had a conversation with concern of, we have a nice thick document and plan, but who really goes through it and reads the details? And Dr. Evans said, let's make this broader and brought it to the county. So we thank Dr. DeFore for following up with that and arranging with Nancy McGraw from the county health department. And what was really nice to see was how many Monticello faculty, staff, administrators, and parents were on that meeting. So it was a full room of our folks, pretty much, but at least it was offered to all. And I think it was extremely informative. And again, a link has been shared with you. So if you did not get a chance to see or hear it, you have the opportunity to do so. I attended the district safety committee meeting. A lot of good dialogue around that is continuing. And at this point, our safety plan has been filed as of our deadline of September 15th. So that was taken care of. I know that has been an issue in past years. And so it was a question that I made sure that we followed up with. So we thank you, Dr. Evans, because I know I put that on your docket, and thank you for making sure that the person responsible for that was on top of it. So that's a good sign. There was some good dialogue, but specifically around, we're having conversation around the people who should be sitting at that table, but are not at that table, and how do we engage them? So I will keep you informed in that. The same is true. I was at a wellness committee meeting. Same is true with regard to that, who is it that's sitting at the table and who else needs to be there? To have committee meetings, maybe during the daytime is not the best for some of those faces that we need to see. We might have to look at swinging around meetings to evening meetings, morning meetings, and not necessarily stick to a specific time of day. Within the wellness committee, there was a lot of discussion, which I think is important to let the board know. We talked about the fact that the district is doing a really terrific job at the social emotional learning components of our students, but that it doesn't help if our parents and our faculty and staff are struggling. So the conversation was around, what does the wellness committee have to bring out to help them? Because if the adults in the room are feeling stress, the kids know it, whether it be their parents or their teachers or whomever it is. So there's some dialogue around what can we do to help give supports to the entire school community, not just our students, in the wellness factor. We did talk about the meals and how meals were done. Again, I do want to give a public shout out during this time that, Monticello Central School District was one of the first things we said when we went into the COVID crisis. Our kids have to be fed. And they still are getting fed, and that came down well before the governor's order did. We understand what our community needs are, and I thank the business office for ensuring that financially we were in a position to make that happen, but also the food service department, because they made it happen along with our transportation department and our safety people, and it was just a real good team effort. So that was discussed. Mrs. Sheriff, we actually attended a Sullivan County School Boards Association meeting, so did Ms. Weiner, so that took place. Ms. Sheriff, considering you're the president, would you like to address anything that was discussed there?
Thank you, Lori. Just briefly, we made some changes to the bylaws that we thought were better suited to our needs at this point, and talked about the way we are going to elect officers. Right now, I think it was sent just to the delegates and board president, but there's a white paper that on graduation that we're looking for feedback on. Lori was one of the authors of the paper to send to the state, because it's one of the things being considered right now.
So if anybody would like to see a copy of that, just to give feedback, just let's Ms. Sheriff or myself know, and we'll make sure you get a copy to give feedback. But it speaks to a number of different issues that are unique to Sullivan County and our school districts that may not be in other areas. Our concern of, what does a graduate look like? And it's not always, the college-bound student. So how do we make sure that we have that diversity and inclusiveness within what it is that the requirements are coming down with? So please let me know if you'd like a copy of it to have some feedback. And then the last thing I did, and I'm coupling these, I did attend and actually run a NYSMA advocacy meeting, and with the information given there, I did attend the National Association for Music Education Advocacy Leadership Force meeting, where I'm one of 30 people from across the nation, and there will be information coming out at that level, specific to, especially after everything is finalized with elections, but specific to the need for funding for schools, and the needs for it to filter down. It is a plea across the nation. It's not just in New York State. Whether they're in a relatively good position COVID-wise numbers or not, there's been an impact across the nation with regard to funding as schools are filtering down and funding's not getting to the sources where they need to be. So I will keep you all posted more on what that ask is as it progresses. So with that said, we're going to turn it over now to Ms. Colon, our student board representative. Hi.
Hi. I hope you guys can hear me okay.
Yeah.
So a couple of things are the students in performing arts and physical education classes. We had talked about them starting up their actual attending classes last week, and we have started that, and it's going really well. It's increasing teacher contact time, and it's in the progress, and we're going to keep going step by step. There's parent-teacher conferences, virtual on the 18th, and we just had our virtual college night for all of the people that couldn't attend. The video, the entire meeting was recorded, and it's now available for all students, not only seniors, and even if you weren't there, it's on the school website. Student Council had a meeting to plan Virtual Spirit Week, and so we're all trying to figure out a way to incorporate as many students, make it work, and have a whole setup and promote some school spirit. It'll hopefully be in December, so right around holiday times, and it'll give us time to plan. Also, some after-school programs are moving forward, like Tri-M and stuff like that, and we are all trying to keep up with our normal Monticello activities. Even though nothing is finalized, we're trying to make plans for Monty Idol and things like in that nature.
Thank you, Ms. Cologne. Does anyone have any questions? So I just want to remind you that Ms. Cologne, you came to this board and you said, here is a concern of ours with regard to why can't we do certain things? And Dr. Evans heard you, this board heard you, and look at the change you made for students. So congratulations. That is phenomenal advocacy. That's great leadership. And that's what we need in our future. So we hope that people who are listening understand what that really looks like. So thank you so much. We appreciate the work that you're doing and keep delivering those messages. That's why you're here. You're here to represent those you serve. So thank you. Moving on from there, we have our building principals reports. Does anyone have anything they'd like to share on any of those or questions? I'd like to just take a half a second to do a shout out specifically for that walking path at the middle school, the collaborative efforts of the PE department, health department, and the art department. Even though we can't go and take a look at it per se right now, the students on it and the work that Ms. Bonfante did in making sure that we were able to see it virtually, the work that was done was spectacular, and we thank those teachers and those students who worked so hard to make that dream happen. So congratulations on that. I'd also like to do a shout out to everybody who participated at KLR for the Denim and Pink Day. They do that annually, and they raised a lot of money again this year for the National Breast Cancer Foundation. It's amazing that in these particular times, the amount of community service that our schools still are finding a way to do to support causes and teach civic and social responsibility to our students. That's wonderful. I also want to do a shout out also for the KLR for Fire Prevention Week. The fire trucks couldn't come to our kids, so they brought the kids sort of to the firehouse by actually a graduate of Monticello Central School District who is a professional firefighter for the Monticello Firehouse, Justin Mapes. Did everything that they would normally do as though they brought the truck, and it was just fantastic. You can see it. There's a link on our district website, so you can see everything that the kids got to see. And it was, my understanding, very well received by the students. So we thank you for doing that. And again, that work on behalf of the administration and also specific to our PR person, Courtney Bonfante, to get that video done and edited and everything else. We really congratulate you. Again, talking about, making sure in these times of COVID, what do we do? A shout out to the Chase School, the amount of community engagement that you guys are doing, specific to making sure that the things take place that are going to benefit our students, like the PTO, those meetings and things of that nature. You're doing a phenomenal job, and we very much appreciate that. Mr. Groden, I'm still speaking. Put your hand down. I'm hitting all the points. No need for you to continue. I'm going there. With regard to the Cook School, I want to do a shout out to them because I think that it was phenomenal for those of you who were able, again, to see the pictures of all of the students in costumes. And not just the students who were in the buildings, but anybody who was virtual. They did virtual so that the kids were still part of it. And that speaks volumes because, again, this is not the norm. So we appreciate them, having them to feel special for that day for them. I'm very excited for the students who are now participating in performing arts and PE. I want to clarify there's a difference between PE and athletics. And there's a difference between the performing arts and the extracurricular activities. And Ms. Cologne did a great job of explaining that. So our students are now going to those actual classes in the high school, which is what Ms. Cologne was asking for. But in addition to that, I want to thank Ms. Fela, the administrative team, everybody in HR, the building principals across the board, and central administration in general, because they made sure that our extracurriculars will be able to be offered to the students, and that students who are in a hybrid model can attend at hybrid, and students who are in a remote model and prefer that for their own reasoning will also have the capabilities of participating. So we are trying to be as inclusive as possible. With that said, I just want to remind everybody, the principals are doing a bang up job at trying to do the best they can under the circumstances. perfect is not ever going to happen because it's hard to be perfect when everyone's starting from ground zero and understanding the learning curve of this. So please, if there's issues, reach out to them. We really do want to accommodate and make sure we're doing what's in the best interest of students. And I, as the board president, on behalf of the board, want to thank our faculty and staff and our parents for all of the work that you're doing to make all of this possible. So there's my report. So, Mr. Groden, do you think I hit everything? Can I continue on?
Yeah, there was your great words brought something to mind. I had a text from a friend. As we have seen an influx of people that have been exiting the city, my friend has moved up here, and he was concerned about the quality, that it might be that the district would offer. And the quote from his son, who happens to go to my alma mater, Chase, he said, "It's the best school in the world." So that is a resounding thumbs up. And I do like hearing that. So kudos to Chase, as all our other schools, but specifically that one was named. So you teachers are doing a bang up job.
So I just want to remind everybody who is listening that we do have a mission statement that's very clear that and what we want to be is a school of choice. And we are working toward that goal every day. And we thank our leadership for that. We thank our teachers for that. We thank the community for the support of that. So thank you for sharing that. And of course, I can only say about Chase because he's in Chase, but all of our schools are schools of choice. And again, we are willing to say we're not perfect. And we are willing to say, how do we make it better? We will reflect upon ourselves and make it better. And that's the goal. So we appreciate that. So with that said, I'm sorry to be so long-winded, but when things are good, we need to let people know they're doing well. So moving on from there, policy committee memo. So I'm going to ask either Ms. Sharoff and or Ms. Greco if you would report out so I can get some more water in me. You don't have a memo, but if you'd just like to let the board know what's coming down the pike between the two of you.
We had a policy meeting this afternoon, and NYSBA sends out policies that we need to pay attention to. Some are pretty simple changes in existing policies, and they'll come up for a first read next month. And some dealing with diversity and inclusion and how to become a district that is anti-racist. There's a lot to discuss, a lot to unpack, and the policy committee will do a deep dive and then come back to the full board when we feel these policies are ready for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Greco. Do you want to add anything? So with that said, I do want to remind Janet for board roundtable, Ms. Montez, if you would be so kind to also add to Ms. Sharoff and to Ms. Greco's report and to mine that we were at the policy meeting as well. Because we forget that we just attended that because it was only, what, 2 hours ago? So it's been a long day. So with that said, correspondence outcomes, we didn't have anything that we needed to worry about there. So the annual budget vote and school board election timeline, Dr. Evans.
So the board has received an outline from first our legal counsel about what a potential budget calendar and budget vote board election timeline might look like. And I believe that Ms. Fela has also shared with the board or is working on a draft calendar about that timeline. We will begin discussions with, we've had some tentative discussions with our administrative staff already, but at our November 16th meeting, we'll be giving more definitive direction on what we're going to be doing with them in terms of budget development. Ms. Fela, is there anything you'd like to add? And the board, it is attached under executive content, the timeline and the budget vote.
Okay, thank you so very, very much. I do see a note here. I'm sorry, I just received this. Miss Jersey is not able to be on the call, and I thought she was still on the call, but she's not. So just if you could please note that, Miss Montez, because I'm not sure that you can see that. So we're set with regard to that. Any questions from Dr. Evans with regard to that, or for Dr. Evans on the calendar? Good. Moving on from there, capital project update, Dr. Evans.
So the capital project continues. You'll see there is a detailed report from LaChase and pictures about some of the work that's being done in the high school wing. A lot of framing, door work, and window work going on. We also are progressing at the transportation center, formerly known as the bus garage. They are setting up the ground now for foundation to be poured this week. Much of the heavier utilities work in ground has been done. They're going to pour the foundation this month, and then with the idea of December starting to put up the frame around the new structure. A couple of things relative to contracts and change orders. You may recall at a meeting, I think it was back October 15th, Chris Ladanier from LaChase, or excuse me, from CPL, our architect, presented about the need to do a change order on underground glass piping that was located in the old kind of science wing of the high school. We're still awaiting that, but that'll probably be up for the board's consideration at the next meeting. And we also, there were some questions yet on the, what should be the final piece of the train contracts on energy performance, or excuse me, their work as part of the capital project. I hope to have to the board an update on that contract by the next meeting.
Any questions for Dr. Evans with regard to the capital project? Okay, moving on from there, path forward. Dr. Evans.
Yes, so the path forward is, every board meeting, we kind of do an update on our reopening plan, any new guidance and so forth. You heard from Ms. Colon about some of the things that have been going on at the high school. Ms. Oristano James detailed some of the ways we're, keeping, traditional activities alive through a new remote format. But there has been some significant developments from the New York State Department of Health relative to how schools might remain open or not for in-person instruction as COVID rates continue to climb steadily. So a couple of weeks ago, the State Department of Health issued what they're calling microcluster guidance. You may have seen that they identified microclusters in different areas around the state. In Brooklyn, Orange County, Broome County, Rockland County had a cluster as well. And what the Department of Health is doing here is identifying hotspots of high positive infection rates. So in that document, and I've shared it on the website on the November Monty message, if a zone is identified as a yellow zone, it's because it has a 7-day positive infection rate at 3.5% or higher for 10 consecutive days, or has, I believe it's like 15 positive cases per 10,000 residents or something to that effect. And then there's also an orange zone, which is worse than that, higher rates than that, and a red zone, which is higher rates than that. If we are identified, or if any school is identified as being in a yellow zone, it either has to close for remote instruction, close to remote instruction only, or ensure that 20% of its students and staff are tested weekly. If a school is in an orange zone or a red zone, then it's going to be closed completely for in-person instruction until 25% and more of its students and staff are tested for COVID. Now, keep in mind, I'm talking about tested, not just screened. So this is the actual COVID test to be tested positive or negative. I've had discussions with Dr. DeFore, BOCES superintendent, who has conveyed messages from the school districts of the county to public health. And as we sit today, there is not the resource available to do that level of testing for 20% of our students and staff if we were to have a yellow zone in our school district. The state can provide the test kits. However, the district would have to provide the personnel to administer the tests, and they have to be lab certified personnel who do those tests. So there's no real way of knowing for sure if we have these types of clusters in our community. That data is not public. The algorithm that the New York State Department of Health uses is not public. But it is something that, as the county rates right now hover around 3% as a 7-day average, we should be mindful of the possibility, as we've been all along, that at a moment's notice, we may have to close a school or multiple schools for in-person instruction and go all remote. So it's a slightly new methodology. It's not a it's not a methodology that we can watch like the weather and say, uh-oh, it's heading this way, we need to be prepared. But we do watch regularly the daily infection rates in Sullivan County. They kind of peaked last week around 4% of 4.5% of a 7-day infection rate, but they've dropped back down to 3%. So we're asking for parents, students, and staff to be vigilant, to be patient, and to everyone to do their part to try to keep our schools as open as possible and provide as best of an education as possible as we can for our kids. So there's more information on that on our website, as well as the New York State Department of Health website.
Thank you, Dr. Evans. Does anyone have any questions around that? So I just want it clear that, Dr. Evans could find out at 7 o'clock the night before that we're in one of those categories. And so it's really important. I know that notes have gone home to parents and things of that nature, but it's really important for people to understand that it's out of our control with regard to that. Right now, the things that are in our control, we're moving forward. We are trying to increase opportunities and do those types of things. Our goal is not to close the schools and to leave them open as much as we can within those guidelines. That said, be prepared. I want people to clearly hear that message from Dr. Evans. So we thank you very much, Dr. Evans, for that. And we know that you, along with our administrative team as a whole, are spending more time on the COVID calculations and the numbers and everything else. And may there be the day that we can just start actually worrying about what we need to worry about, which is how to educate children on a steady basis versus that. So thank you so much for all of the efforts that are being placed in that area. Moving on from there, we have the upcoming events. You should start taking a look at the upcoming events, and I will ask Ms. Montez to please make sure that anything that starts to become a virtual presentation for us is placed on the calendar, so that with the links or whatever that we may need so that the board can attend. I know that they'll be publicized by Ms. Bonfante, but if they could be a one-stop shop for people being able to go into our calendar and find it, that would be great. So we thank everybody for that. Community events, I was not updated with anything specific. So moving on to there, Ms. Montez, do we have any questions or comments from the public?
You do not.
Thank you so much. Moving on to superintendent's update and information, Dr. Evans.
Thank you, Ms. Oristano James, and good evening, everyone. First, for some late breaking news that did not make the deadline for my report to the board. We received the TRS contribution rates from TRS for the next budget year. These rates are currently tentative, but they did give us kind of a range of what they're looking at. And they're looking at the employer, payment rate somewhere between 9.5% and 10% for next year. To give you some context, this current year's contribution rate is, or from the employer contribution side, is 9.53%. So in a kind of a doom and gloom year, to have a number that's relatively stable compared to this current year is somewhat refreshing. But stay tuned with that. That could go up depending on how the economy fares. However, it's been a pretty good week on Wall Street. This past Tuesday, you might have heard that the Sullivan County Democrat published the school scene for the Monticello Central School District. So those are still on newsstands, I believe, as we sit. We are trying to gather those as we can, and I believe Ms. Bonfante has shared links to that effect and some information on that. Some great stories about some of the things our staff are doing in this new world that we're working in. And earlier today, the New York State Education Department canceled the January regents. We are still processing the guidance that we received this afternoon. However, it appears to be very similar to what the State Education Department did last year when it canceled the June regents. And that is to say that if a student had received course credit and hadn't passed the regents, that he or she would gain course credit and regents credit as well. But that information just came out today, and our guidance counselors and high school staff, administrators, and teachers are still processing it. And some other events. I attended several community meetings this week, in addition to last night's community forum from Sullivan County Public Health. And again, I thank Dr. Dufour and Nancy McGraw of Public Health for putting that on. On Monday, I met with Sullivan County Legislative Chair Robert Doherty and the Sullivan County Attorney Michael McGuire to discuss some of what we're experiencing as a school district during this time. And I heard, from Mr. Doherty, Mr. McGuire about, the things that the county is looking forward to in working with the district. And we both have a common concern around funding for the upcoming year. I also, Monday night, attended the Monticello Kiwanis meeting and shared with them our reopening plans and the different types of cohorts and some of the guidelines that we are compelled to abide by, and the board will be acting on receiving a gift from Monticello Kiwanis later in the program, and I want to thank Monticello Kiwanis for their support of our students. And yesterday, Dr. Oler Marks and I met with the Education Committee of the Sullivan County NAACP, and it was a very constructive dialogue around what we are doing as a district in terms of equity and in terms of disparities among students of color with other students, whether those be academics or discipline or otherwise. So we did ask that they asked us if we had anything to ask of them, and that was if they came across any resources to increase recruitment and hiring of candidates of color, that they pass any of those resources along to us so we could advertise in those areas. So it was a very productive discussion. I too attended the NYSSBA convention. It was over a 2-week period because we had the law conference 2 weeks ago, and then last week the regular conference, the legal updates. There are still many legal questions that are open during this crisis about the extent to which services need to be provided by districts. Attorneys still are, asking questions of the Department of Health, of the State Education Department, and there's still litigation out there that has yet to be settled around this and probably won't be for some time. I attended a physical planning workshop put on by an associate commissioner of state ed, as well as NYSSBA's representative, and the numbers weren't any better than what has already been shared and discussed. The biggest concerns in the state are around the loss of state revenues. And the message here and the key takeaways are that New York City income taxes contribute to about 40% of overall state revenue on an annual basis. That is just residents of New York City. That does not take into account residents of suburbs or out-of-state residents who work in the city and also pay income taxes. So there is a significant potential for some really significant loss there, as well as year-to-date in sales tax receipts in New York State. They're down by about 15%. So, when the state withholds revenue or withholds aid from school districts, that is the reason why. And once again, we were reminded that Monticello Central School District is one of 420 school districts in the state that is not receiving full foundation aid funding. Again, that's foundation aid that's written into the state constitution, and the state is by constitution required to deliver to districts, but it doesn't. On other news in the and again, as mentioned before, board members can still access those sessions on demand. We also received word that the state education department is withholding transportation aid payments to school districts. That was generated on transportation done from March 18th, 2020 through June 30th of 2020. So you heard Ms. Oristano James talk about before how we delivered meals to students and families through our transportation, our buses, our bus drivers, and so forth. Those runs will not, at the moment, aid has not been generated, will not be paid based on those runs. It's currently being withheld. We don't know if that will ever come out, but that's the status of that. We just found out about that last week. And the Empire State After School Grant, we had a step back and maybe a possible step forward. At the last board meeting, there were 2 board meetings ago, there were several questions about after school programs. And after discussing it further with Ms. Fela, Dr. Ola Marks, and other administrators, it is difficult for us to proceed with the scale of after school programming that we had previously, because the district receives $1.4 million annually through the Empire State After School Grant. In mid-October, we received an email from the Office of Children and Family Services that said, to the extent, let me quote because I want to get it right, how and when the district would receive that disbursement was not known at that time. I shared that information with Assemblywoman Gunther, and just late last week, we received notice from OCFS that there would be an upcoming webinar that would talk about how that would happen. That's the only information we have at this time. However, there are not monies in the budget for this year to fund the after-school programs that historically had been funded through that grant. So at the moment, we're still, we're making tentative plans internally in terms of operations and systems and so forth. However, without some more assurances about that money coming through, we will not be able to deliver it at the scale that we have historically. And then very lastly, some recognitions. I'll be reading a recognition in for our nurses later on in the meeting. The district has been recognized by Cornell Cooperative Extension as a friend of the extension. And this is based on our partnership with Cornell Cooperative on work at the St. John Street School Community Hub. They will be recognizing us at a Zoom meeting on November 18th. If any board members are interested in attending, please contact Ms. Montez for that information. And then lastly, but certainly not least, as the grandson of a Purple Heart recipient from World War II, next Wednesday is Veterans Day. And I want to send on behalf of the district a special recognition to all of our veterans for their service to our country. We can't thank you enough for the commitment that you made to this country. And despite what, the country might be going through in this election cycle, things like that election would not be possible if veterans did not step forward when they did to protect this nation. So a very heartfelt thank you to them. And that is my report for this evening. Any questions from the board?
Thank you, Dr. Evans. Considering that Ms. Montez is on this, who would like to attend that November 18th? We're very honored to receive that. We just, we did what was right for the community and for our kids, and we're going to continue to do that. So who would like to attend? It's a 6 o'clock on the 18th. Ms. Montez, I will definitely be attending that. Anybody else able to do that Wednesday evening?
Is it a Zoom meeting?
It's a Zoom meeting. Yes, it's not live and in person. So Ms. Galligan is attending. Mr. Groden is attending. Anybody else able to attend? Mr. Crumley is attending. Okay, and I believe that Ms. Jersey is planning on attending, so I would send it out to her as well as, and Dr. Evans, you're attending, I'm assuming? Okay, so that's who we need to hit up, Janet. So Dr. Evans, Mr. Crumley, Mr. Groden, Ms. Galligan, and myself.
You could send it to the whole board and just those of who need it.
I think they're actually asking for an RSVP from what I
Okay.
was able to see. So we have to let them know who's coming. So if there's a change in anything, please let me know. Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate that. So moving on from there, our Assistant Superintendent for Business, Ms. Fala.
Okay, so I only have a couple of things this evening. I'm asking the board to excess buses. We had traded those buses in on our new buses. And I need the board to excess them. That memo got missed back in September, and I apologize for that. The acceptance of a gift from the Kiwanis Club for the Cook School, and I'm asking the board to amend the budget so that they can buy clothing for kids in need. There's the 2021-2022 budget calendar. That's our calendar that kind of gives the board the dates of when different presentations will be made and what meetings are. And it also includes the dates, the legal requirement dates as well. And lastly, there's a memo there about the middle school heat exchanger. I asked Mr. Lewis to put that together to explain what's going on. You might have seen the big vehicle over at the middle school that's supplying heat now, and he did a really good job explaining the need there. There's a lead time to replace that of 4 weeks, and since it's getting cold, we didn't want to risk it, failing completely and not having heat in the middle school. So that's all I have.
Any questions from anyone around that? Okay, moving on from there, Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Ola Marks.
Thank you. Just two quick things. The first is there is an update. Uh-oh.
You're breaking up on us.
Yeah, I think. Uh-oh.
Dr. Ola Marks, are you there?
I'm here.
We can hear you now, but you're frozen on the screen. So why don't we try just at least to be able to hear you? Nope, we're not hearing you now either. I'm going to continue on with the meeting, and when Dr. Ola Marks comes back, we will transfer back to her for her report. So with that said, I don't think there was anything that we needed to worry about because it's just a placeholder. So we're up. She's signing back in. There she is.
Back. Apologies. I had to switch my
welcome
Wi-Fi.
to the world.
So there just an update on the CARES Act funding. So the CARES Act funding across the state has been unsubmitted in every district. There was the way the CARES Act funding was set up was that we received an allocation based on our Title I student population, and we're required to provide a per pupil allocation to every single private school student in schools within our boundaries, whether they were our students or not, no matter what their Title I status was. There was a lawsuit in September that challenged that. And so they have refigured the funding. And so we're going to use the Title I funding allocations that we have used previously, where it's the schools within where our students go at private schools. If there's a Title I status for those students, we'll get the funding. So that is a new application that we have to have completed by the 23rd of November. So just so you're aware of that delay. The second thing I have is a consultant services contract This is for Change Impact. This is to do the work in the middle school for needs assessment and to help us to write the CSIP plan, which is the school improvement plan to address the disproportionate outcomes that made us a target district. Any questions?
Any questions of Dr. Ola Marks? Okay, so with that said, moving on, Mr. Cromley, do you have anything you would like to say?
I move that we take action items T1 through T10 and T12 as a group.
Is there a reason we are taking T11 out?
Uh,
Oh, because we did that earlier. So T12, Dr. Evans, are we still, T12 has a placeholder on it?
Does it?
No, that might be an older agenda. The T12 I have is approval of consultant services contract. And that's the change impact agreement that Dr. Ola Marks just referenced,
Yeah.
correct?
So I have a T12 that I have is capital project change order,
That's-
placeholder.
No, Ms. Montez, T12 is approval of consultant services contract, correct? With change impact?
Yeah, consultant services contract is T12.
I think what you're referring to, that was on a previous agenda, a draft agenda.
That's why for some reason, that's what my machine is pulling up. So with that said, we'll figure that out. Again, you gotta love technology.
The motion, to be clear, the motion that Mr. Crumley offered is correct as far as.
Okay, that's why I'm double checking before I move on, because I have something else. So, okay, with that said, Mr. Crumley made the motion, second to take them as a group, made by Ms. Mason Greco. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? So ordered. Mr. Crumley?
I move that we approve action items T1 through T10 and T12 as a group.
Seconded by Mr. Groden. Thank you very much. All in favor? Any opposed? So ordered. Thank you. Correspondence. We were able to see the information that was left for us for correspondence. Again, we thank the Democrat for the great coverage that they've been giving us. It's nice to know that we're getting information out there and such. Any questions around that? Questions and comments from the public, Ms. Montez?
Nothing.
Dr. Evans?
Yes, I would like to read a recognition into the record that the board just adopted.
Please do so.
Okay, so the board just adopted in November, as November being recognition month for our school nurse teachers and health assistants. Whereas the school nurse teachers and health assistants of the Monticello Central School District have proven to be dedicated public employees over the years and who have provided tireless and invaluable services for the Monticello Central School District. And whereas the Board of Education desires to formally commend and recognize such employees and express its collective gratitude for their longstanding dedication to the Monticello Central School District. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education formally commends and recognizes our school nurse teachers and health assistants for their longstanding dedicated public service to the Monticello Central School District and declares the month of November as School Nurse Teachers and Health Assistants Recognition Month. And if I may, the efforts they are doing right now in our reopening are, words cannot express enough what they're doing right now. So thank you, nurses.
Thank you very, very much. We appreciate that. And thank you for reading that into the record, Dr. Evans. Anybody else with regard to anything during questions and public comments? So we're good to go on that. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn made by Mr. Groden, seconded by Ms. Galligan. Any discussion? So we thank everybody who is here this evening for the meeting. And again, any questions or anything, you can always continue to put your questions into an email format, jmontes, JMONTES @k12mcsd.net. And we are happy to answer anything that you might have a question about regarding this. With that said, we thank everybody for being here this evening, and we wish you all stay safe, stay healthy, and always with Monty Pride. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.